I, George Herbert Walker Bush, do solemnly swear.
George Herbert Walker Bush was sworn into a world he called rich with promise.
A new breeze is blowing, and a world refreshed by freedom seems reborn.
The 41st president and his presidency were shaped by the upheavals of the 20th century. He was born June 12, 1924 in Milton, Massachusetts. His father was a bank manager who was later elected to the U.S. Senate. His mother was the daughter of a New York editor. George Bush grew up in privilege, attending the best private schools. On his 18th birthday, he enlisted to fight in World War II, becoming the youngest pilot in the U.S. Navy. He flew 58 combat missions, but in September of 1944, he was shot down by enemy fire and later plucked from the Pacific by an American submarine. The young pilot was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross and sent home. As the war ended, Bush married Barbara Pierce and began his college career, excelling academically and athletically at Yale. In 1948, the young Bush family left New England and moved to South Texas, where Bush became a success in the oil industry. And it was the oil industry that eventually brought him and Barbara to Bakersfield in the summer of 1949. To this house on Monterey Street. GOP consultant and Bakersfield resident Kathy Abernathy was friendly with the Bush family and even shared a special connection with them. She says it was on a visit to the White House that President George W. Bush remembered his days as a boy being raised at the East Bakersfield home.
And as I'm sitting there, I feel somebody massaging my shoulders, and I turn around and look, and it's President George W. Bush. And he said, "Hey, I want to tell you, I used to live in Bakersfield." And I said, "Oh, I know. I own your house."
In 1966, he put his oil career on hold when he ran and won a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives.
I know you and I share a lot of worries about the future of our state and nation.
Bush twice failed to win election to the Senate, but was appointed to a series of high-profile positions.
This is indeed a great honor for me, of course.
President Nixon chose him to serve as ambassador to the United Nations and then as ambassador to China.
I don't view political experience as a detriment, Mr. Chairman. I view it as an asset.
In 1974, he became the director of the Central Intelligence Agency.
I am a candidate for President of the United States.
In 1980, Bush decided to run for president, but was eclipsed by Ronald Reagan, who eventually chose Bush as his running mate.
It was a total surprise. I thought that there'd been speculation I might be a VP selection, but that all was overshadowed by the common wisdom at the moment that President Ford would be selected to be the running mate.
Then, after 2 terms in the Reagan administration, it was Bush's turn, facing opposition in the Republican primaries from Robert Dole and in the general election from Michael Dukakis.
It's going to be the Joe Azuzu of American politics.
Is this the time to unleash our one-liners? That answer was about as clear as Boston Harbor. Now, let me...
Bush made a promise he would later break.
Read my lips. No new taxes.
But progress on his watch was felt around the world. The fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of communism in Eastern Europe. Perhaps most notably, the liberation of Kuwait after the Iraqi invasion.
A line has been drawn in the sand.
Despite his popularity after the Gulf War, President Bush failed to capitalize on the goodwill of the public. A faltering economy and a growing budget deficit eventually weakened his presidency. And in 1992, Bush was defeated by Bill Clinton. With the election of George W. Bush in 2000, the senior Bush joined John Adams in a small elite group, presidents whose sons succeeded them in the White House. The proud father seemed to shun the spotlight, making news largely with a new favorite pastime. Parachute jumps.
And I like it. I like the feeling of it. At 80, you still got feelings, and I like that.
He devoted his retirement to helping others, raising money with President Clinton for Asian tsunami and Hurricane Katrina victims.
He easily could have chosen a life of comfort and privilege. And instead, time and again, when offered a chance to serve, he seized it.
In the end, Bush, like his son, insisted he would let history measure his legacy.
This picture just taken last month of H.W. Bush. It's from his granddaughter's Instagram, Jenna Bush Hager. He was able to make it to his granddaughter Barbara's wedding just last month. The location of the wedding accommodating to her grandfather, who had, of course, been in poor health. You can see here he watched as she walked down the aisle. Now, we don't have specific information on his funeral arrangements yet, but we know that he will be buried at his presidential library in Texas. Reporting in studio, Alyssa Flores, 23 ABC.